Good morning to everyone. I'd like to thank Dr. Crendel, Debbie, and Christy. Thank you for the invitation to come and be with you this morning and to share with you a little bit about myself and kind of my perspective on leadership in some way. My goal for the morning is to hopefully help you in whatever way I can in your personal leadership journey. So as you continue to climb the leadership ladder, hopefully some of the things that we share and talk about this morning will not only inform where you are today, but will hopefully continue to inform your leadership experience as you continue along. I'll talk a little bit about myself. To kind of give you at least a glimpse into some of the experiences in my past that I believe have kind of shaped my perspective on leadership. Some have written and some have talked about what they believe to be a leadership vacuum in our country and within our institutions today, but not only within America, but globally, that there is some believe that there is a shortage of good, strong, effective leaders. And so they're beginning to question, what do we have to do in order to fill that void, to fill that empty spot? What needs to be done? And so what I want to look at this morning for just a few minutes is look at some leadership distinctives that money can't buy. I'm convinced really there are, for me, two primary components in effective leadership: competence and character. The competence piece, both are important, both are necessary. So I believe in order to be a truly effective leader, you got to have them both. But I think one is easier to use money to buy than the other. See, we can send you to some conferences, we can bring in some trainers, and we can get you up to speed and get you competent to do something. But character is a whole nother issue. And I believe those two components in leadership, and most leadership training and most education that we have, one component is stressed more than the other. And I think the component that gets at least the most attention is that of competence. That if we could just give you the right process, or if we could just give you 5 steps to being a great leader, you can take this back to your workplace, you can take this back to the organization that you're leading, you can take it to your home, and just implement these 5 steps and you'll be a great leader. Well, I do think that in order to really be a great leader, you have to have both components. You have to have character, and you also have to have competence. And character is the one of the two that money can't buy. Now, a little bit about me, and what has kind of a little bit about my leadership philosophy and perspective, and how that shaped. I grew up not too terribly far from here in the Northland area. Graduated from Northland High School, went to Ohio State. I have my undergrad in economics from Ohio State. Have a master's degree from the United Theological Seminary in Dayton. And Dr. Crendel and I were just talking. At the moment, I'm floundering in ABD land, finishing up my Doctor of Ministry from Anderson University. I grew up in a two-parent household here in North Columbus. Father and mother. My parents were married for 49 years, and had my father lived for another 30 days, he and my mother would have been married for 50 years. My mother was, at various points in my formative years, growing up years, she was a stay-at-home mom. But it was kind of weird because at the same time she was a stay-at-home mom, she also worked at various times. She was a registered respiratory therapist. So she worked, and then once she got tired of respiratory therapy, she went back to school once again and became a teacher. So she was an elementary teacher in the Columbus Public School system. My dad was the director of civil rights and workers' compensation for the Ohio AFL-CIO. So my father was a union man. He was a strong, very, very active union personality. And so I say this, I kind of give you this information because of who my parents were, they helped to shape my perspective on what it means to be a leader. As a teacher, my mother and a respiratory therapist, my mother was very interested in educating young people and taking care of those who had health concerns. So she was always concerned about others. My dad, as a union man, was the working man's man. And so I just remember him saying over and over again, look, we're not asking employers to give us everything. All we're advocating for is an honest day's wage for an honest day's work. Give us give employees a safe workplace, pay them an honest day's wage, and you'll get an honest day's work out of people. That's the partnership that we're looking for. And so, growing up in that household, Christian household, African American household, all of those things have shaped and formed who I am and who I have come to be as a leader. And so just to make sure we're all on the same page, since we're talking about leadership, I want to make sure that we understand what leadership is. According to John Maxwell, now there are as many different writers that write on leadership, that's how many different definitions you'll get of what leadership is. And so I've kind of adopted John Maxwell's definition of leadership because not only is it simple, but it also, for the most part, sums up what I believe leadership is. And Maxwell defines it as influencing others towards a common goal. At other times, he has said, leadership is influence. Nothing more, nothing less. I consider myself and my leadership style to be that of a servant leader, which also kind of plays right into and informs my occupation, my calling in life as a pastor. And for me, servant leadership involves three things. It involves the sharing of power. So yes, there is a hierarchy, but it's not a rigid hierarchy. For me, servant leadership is about the sharing of power with others. It involves putting the needs of others first. For me, leadership, especially servant leadership, is not about hoarding power at the top. It's not about lording one's position of authority over other people. For me, to truly lead, that's really to say it's not all about me. It's got to be bigger than that. It's got to be, there's got to be more to leadership than me getting all I can and then canning all I get and keeping it to myself. So servant leaders share power, put the needs of others first, and then to help people develop and perform as highly as possible. So for me, truly great leaders, it's not about their accomplishments always. What truly great leaders do, they develop other people as they develop themselves. As they climb the leadership ladder, they don't climb it by themselves. They take other people with them. And for me, the true mark of a great leader is look at those who surround the leader. How are they doing? How are they fulfilled in life? How are they achieving? And that will tell you how good, how great the leader is. And then character, just to make sure we're all on the same page talking about the same thing. Character, by definition, is the collection of traits and features that form the individual nature of a person. It's the collection of traits and characteristics that form together who we are. So that's a fancy way of saying it. Character is about who you are on the inside. As I alluded to a few minutes ago, for me, effective leadership has two components. And those two components are character and competency. And in order to be effective in leadership, you have to have them both. And what I want to look at this morning are those character traits, those leadership distinctives that have to do with character that all the money in the world can't buy. And so for me, now you can make the list as long as you would like, but due to the nature of our time constraint this morning, I limited myself to really my top five. The top five character leadership distinctives that money can't buy. And that if you really want to improve your leadership, if you want to grow in your leadership, then take inventory on where you are as it relates to these five character traits. And the five character traits, start at the top and work our way around. Integrity, compassion, courage, clarity of vision, and a commitment to excellence. Now, if we truly want to be great leaders, in addition to competence, we have to excel and be excellent in these five character traits. And it has been my experience that all the money in the world can't buy them. I usually advise people when they ask, churches when they call and ask, organizations when they call me or email me and ask me, I have two candidates that I'm considering to fill this position. My advice is always go with character. Go with character. If it's down it's down to two candidates and you got to make a decision over this guy, man, he's great. Man, he's really good at what he does. Yeah, but how's his character? Go with character, and then you can pay to get him competent, but you can't pay to give him character. And so let's look at these five traits that are a part of character, and they're all things that money can't buy. The first one is integrity. And integrity is the quality of being honest. It's how trustworthy are you? And as we go through each one of these, I'm going to ask some questions. Some rhetorical, some I'm going to want you to talk back to me about. And my hope is you'll remember at least one or two of these five, And as you go throughout the rest of your day, and because at some point you're going to have to make a decision today on what to do and how to do it, I hope one of these questions will come back to you and you'll say, which way should I go here? And I hope you choose the right way. So integrity is the quality of being honest. It is, can you be trusted? Another way of looking at integrity is integrity is who you are when nobody's watching. Integrity has to do with how you behave, how you conduct yourself when you're sure nobody's watching. So the camera is off, nobody can see you. What do? How do you conduct yourself? Integrity has to do with you mean what you say, what you mean, and you mean what you say. It's keeping your word. So if I say we're going to start the meeting at 10, okay, we actually start the meeting at 10. Not 10-ish, not 10:15, not 10:30, but when I say 10, I mean 10. It's keeping your word. So when you tell your son, I'm going to be there for your game, you actually show up. When you tell your daughter, I will be there for your game, I'll be there for your recital, you actually show up. It's where your word is your bond, and where people can actually take you at your word. Now, in some circles, this used to be a given, where, yes, you say what you mean and you mean what you say, and we can take that at face value. But we live in a day and time now, in a culture now, where, okay, I heard what you said, but let me see it in writing. And then I'm going to need your signature on the bottom of that. So now we have a written agreement. We have a contract. But a person of character is somebody where, yeah, we can put it in writing, but all we're going to put in writing is what we just said. And you can take me at my word. Integrity is absolutely essential to leadership. For me, you can't be a great leader and you have compromised integrity. You might be competent. You might be able to get the job done. But here's the thing. See, when your integrity is compromised, I can't really trust what you tell me. So I'm always watching you out the side of, you get the side eye. Because it's like, yeah, she said that, but, in the words of Ronald Reagan, trust but verify. That's because I can't trust you. So it's absolutely essential. And companies, corporations, businesses are now finally, once again, starting to wake up to the importance of integrity. Because when you have integrity, it does affect the bottom line. If companies don't trust you, they're not going to do business with you, even if you have the lowest price. So when you have integrity, it's important for us to understand people will demand to deal with you. This works itself out. When you need something done around the house, you need a plumber. I got a guy. You ask and what do? We ask our friends for references. We ask our friends to recommend somebody to us. And because of who it's coming from, you have a level of trust with them. So I got a guy. You need that done? You need some electrical work, HVAC work, a mechanic? I got a guy. Don't worry. This guy, he's not like those other guys. This guy, you can trust. So people will demand to deal with you. Businesses will pay a premium to partner with you. There comes a point where, in doing business with somebody, I'd rather pay more and be able to trust that you're not going to rip me off, that you're not going to nickel and dime me, that it's not $100 when I bring it in for the estimate, but, you know, when you're sitting at your desk and you get that phone call, and it's like, hello, Mr. Bell, we found a few other things. It's amazing how mechanics always find a few other things. But businesses will pay a premium. Investors will only want their money with you because they trust you. And all of this is because you're a person that can be trusted. Now, here's the question I want you to, well, let's do a little exercise. Here's a question let's talk about for a moment. When is a good time to lie? When's a good time to lie? Anybody? There's never a good time to lie. Okay? So not even, honey, do I look fat in this dress?
I mean, my mother's a little older right now. She's battling cancer. I mean, providing all the details of that illness isn't really, necessary in part. I mean, again, I know I'm making a judgment there, and it's a bit presumptuous, but she hasn't had that struggle. We're working very closely with the doctors, so there's no sense in giving her all the details of what's going on, although she understands that she has an illness that she's going to deal with. So in that sense, I wouldn't be as forthright as I would consider lying, but I would consider it justified.
Mm-hmm. That's one of the things that we have to wrestle with. Now, I was invited to be part of an interviewing process for an agency and filling some vacancies that they had. And this was actually one of the questions that was a part of that interviewing process. When is it a good time to lie? And several of the candidates that came through essentially said, well, little white lies are okay. It's the big lies that you have to avoid. Now, I wasn't allowed to talk. I had to sit there, but I had to bite a hole in my tongue to keep from speaking up and asking, okay, help me with when does a lie change from being a little white lie to now being a full-blown lie? Where does that happen? At what point do we cut it off? Integrity. Are we trustworthy? And here's the problem with lying, or let's soften that a little bit. Misrepresenting the truth. The problem with it is it's a slippery slope. And every time we misrepresent the truth, we chip away at our integrity. Now, what's this look like in the workplace? In the workplace, it's just a box of pins. They're not going to miss it. Big as Otterbein is, they're not going to miss a box of paper clips. And I need these to send out the family reunion letter. Or you're holding your staff meeting and one of the employees, one of the people that work for you gives you a great idea. Man, that's a great idea. But when you go to the executive level meeting where they are not in, the idea all of a sudden becomes yours. Oh man, she's wonderful, she's great. Not giving credit to where the idea actually came from. Or you tell your kids, no, tell them I'm not here. I'm not here. Every time we do it, it chips away at our integrity. And the question really that we have to wrestle with and deal with is, how much is your integrity worth? Is your integrity worth more than a box of ink pens? Is your integrity worth more than stealing somebody's idea and passing it off as your own? See, this is why the public trust in government is at an all-time low. Public trust in many of our institutions is at an all-time low. With the Enron debacle, with Bernie Madoff, all issues surrounding integrity. I am not a crook. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. Really? And every time it happens, it chips away at the public's trust. So, integrity is it's one of those things that money can't buy. Here's the tricky thing about integrity, about trust, and it's almost not fair. It can take years, decades to build up a reputation of integrity and trustworthiness. It can take you years to build it up. And man, you can lose it all in an instant. One moment. Took you 10 years to build up the trust in that relationship, and then one stupid mistake, one offhand remark, bam, and it's gone. Now, it can be rebuilt, but it's going to take a whole lot longer to rebuild the trust than it took to throw it away all in an instant. That's integrity. So as you go throughout the rest of your day, ask yourself, am I doing the right thing here? How would I do this if nobody else was watching? Okay? Ike is quoted as saying, the supreme quality for leadership is unquestionably integrity. Without it, no real success is possible, no matter whether it's on a section gang, a football field, in the army, or an office. That's how essential to leadership integrity is. The next characteristic that money can't buy is compassion. Now these are kind of, some leadership experts would probably say, oh, this is the fluffy stuff. This is the foo-foo stuff. This is the touchy-feely stuff. There's no room for that in real leadership. I mean, real leaders, it's all about getting the job done and getting it done on time. Cut corners where you have to, okay, yeah, but it's all about getting the job done. And I want to push back against that because I believe in order to truly be a great leader, you got to have integrity and you have to have compassion. And again, for me, this is part of my perspective of being a servant leader, where it's not all about me. Being a leader means you're concerned for the health, the safety, and the well-being of others. This means you have to care about the people you work with. You have to care about the people that work for you and the people that you work for. Leadership it's about others. It's not about yourself. This can kind of go against the grain, particularly in America, of how we see strong leaders. Compassion has to do with the fact that everybody deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. How do you lead your staff meetings? I understand you're the big dog in the room. But do you consider those that work for you? The decision you're about to make, have you thought about it from another perspective other than your own? Do you really care about the people you work with? In other words, here's what I mean by that. The office associate, the secretary that sits right outside your door, do you know what her career goals and aspirations are? And if so, how are you helping him to achieve them? Or is it all about you? It doesn't cost you anything to show compassion, only giving yourself. Money can't buy compassion, but also it doesn't cost any money to display it, to give it. Now here's the question dealing with compassion. Are you using people or are you investing in people? And there's a huge difference. So the people that work for you, are you merely using them? Are they merely a means to an end? They're like cogs in a machine. You use them up until you're finished using them and you have no more use for them, and then you discard them and move on to the next one. Or are you truly investing in people? You know what their hopes are. You know what their dreams are. Do you know about their families? Do you know what's going on in their home life? Now, I'm not saying, you ain't got to get all in their business. But there are some basic things. I mean, you should know that you should know the person that sits in the pod right next to you, in the cube right next to you, that they're married with 3 kids. Bobby plays soccer, Cindy plays the piano, and little Johnny is just learning how to walk. It's nice to know those things. Do you? And here's what it points to. Do you care enough to at least know that about them? Because here's the thing. The old adage really is true. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And once people know that you care about them, they'll follow your leadership. Once they know you're a person of integrity and you actually care about me, you mean I actually matter? I actually have a voice? I actually have a say-so? Yes. People will follow you. When people know that you truly care about them, they will willingly follow your leadership. So are you using people or are you investing in people? Are you making opportunities available for the people that work with you to advance within the organization? See, on the one hand, there are some that think that they have to keep their thumb on people that work for them. Got to keep them under control. Got to exercise your power and authority over them. And there are others, and they see that as, and you got to work them. And you got to stay on top of them. And when our productivity numbers go through the roof, then I'll be promoted because of what I did whipping this department into shape. It's using people. Or are you investing in people? Because see, one of the things about great leaders, take me to any organization. We can go to any business, any department. Let me see how many people that work for you that have been promoted and advanced and are now have gone on to higher heights in the organization. To me, that's success. When I can help somebody else reach their goals and objectives. And we get there by showing compassion. And it actually works. Consider the situation or decision from the point of view of others. That's showing compassion. So when you're sitting in the room and you're about to make a decision, how is this going to affect? That doesn't mean that it necessarily changes what the decision's going to be. It could, it might. But have you even considered it of how it might affect somebody else? Thinking about somebody other than yourself. So, integrity and compassion. Third one is courage. Courage is the ability to face difficulty, danger, pain, etc. in spite of fear. Not in the absence of fear, but in spite of the fear. It's being able to act. It's being able to make the tough call, to make the decision, understanding that there's going to be consequences. Understanding that, man, I've never been in this situation before, but to be able to act anyway, in spite of the fear, not in the absence of fear. It takes courage to go where no one has gone before. It takes courage to do what nobody else has done before. It takes courage to forge ahead when all the data says no, but your gut's telling you yes. It takes courage to step out and be the first woman to start a business endeavor. It takes courage to be the first minority, the first African American to step into a situation in a place where no other African American has been before. That takes courage. It also takes courage to speak up when necessary. That when you see an injustice taking place, when you see a wrong taking place, to speak up. When everybody else in the room, when the leader stands up and makes this bold proclamation, and everybody else in the room goes silent, it takes courage to speak up and to speak your mind. To speak truth in the midst of injustice. It takes courage to attempt what others said couldn't be done. Some of you are sitting in this room today, and there was somebody in your past that told you, don't worry, you'll never be anything. Oh, you can't do that. Not coming from where you come from. No way you can do it. It takes courage to forge ahead anyway. It takes courage to stand up for justice in the face of injustice. When you're in the room and the decision is about to be made about who's about to get hired or who's about to be promoted, and you know candidate A is a better choice, but HR is going to choose candidate B because candidate B is the white male. It takes courage to speak up and say, no, I don't think we want to do that. It takes courage to speak up and say, now, do you have that opinion of Sally just because she's a woman? If she were a man, I don't think that would be your opinion of her. And with her accomplishments, with her resume. I mean, if you look at the resumes, if you sit them down here side by side, it takes courage to be in the room when the salary is being determined, and because it's a black female, we're going to pay her less than we pay white males. It takes courage to speak up in those situations. And here's the tricky thing about character, another tricky thing about character. It costs you, but it doesn't cost you, well, it can. I was about to say it costs you, but it doesn't cost you money. Tricky thing about integrity. There may come a point in time where you have to do the right thing, and doing the right thing means you're probably not going to get that promotion. Why? Because I don't want to go along to get along. Or you hit one of these other two that we'll hit here in a minute, where there has to be a commitment to excellence. And you say, no, I don't want to cut corners in order to get there. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it the right way. And that takes courage. The fourth characteristic is clarity of vision. All the money in the world can't give you a vision for your life. Likewise, all the money in the world can't give you clarity of vision for where your department is going, where your business is going. And a truly effective leader has the ability to begin with the end in mind. An effective leader has the ability to cast a compelling vision for everybody else to see and to connect with. And for me, vision is a clear, mental, I'll give you my professional one. Remember, I'm a pastor. Vision is a clear mental image of God's preferable future. So for me, when I'm talking to the triumphant church and I'm telling them what God is calling us and leading us to do, that means I need you to see it. I have to use my words and paint a picture for people to see it so that they can say, now that, yeah, I can be a part of that. Something that's bigger than me that I can contribute to, that can positively influence the lives of others. You have to have clarity of vision. You have to see it. You have to be able to clearly see the pathway to the successful completion of your mutual goal. We have to focus on where we're going. And this is important because it goes, again, everything goes back to integrity. Because it helps you, it provides guidance in times of uncertainty. And it helps us to determine what to say yes to and what to say no to. There's something, nice opportunity, wonderful opportunity, but that's not in alignment with where we're headed. That's not where we're going. Thank you, but no thank you. And you've got to be crystal clear on your vision. And then, fifth and finally, characteristic that money can't buy is a commitment to excellence. And for me, this has to do with there's a right way to do things and a wrong way to do things. There's the right way, and then there's all other kinds of ways. And you have to have innately within you a desire, a drive to do it the right way. You have to really believe that anything worth doing is worth doing right. Think about it for a minute. Somebody that doesn't have that, you can't really trust them. You're always going to have to do twice the work because you're going to have to double check everything they do to see, is this where they chose to cut a corner? Is this where they chose to do it less than the best way in order to meet the deadline? Instead of just being honest up front and telling me, I can't do it in 2 weeks. I know you want it in 2 weeks, but I can't do it that fast. A commitment to excellence. You have to have an unwavering commitment to excellence and an unwavering desire to do things right. It's not good enough to just get the job done. It has to be done the right way. And how we get the job done is every bit as important as getting the job done. No, the means don't necessarily justify the ends. That's what we tell ourselves to make it okay that we cut some corners and probably did some things that were less than honest. And then anything worth doing is worth doing right. What we do is a reflection of who we are. So the way you undertake the task, the way you go about completing the task, says a whole lot about who you are. It's always very interesting to me when people get caught with their hand in the cookie jar and they want to say, well, you know, that's not really who I am. I know I said that. I know I blurted that out, but that's not really who I am. Really? Well, who are you? Because now you've left us, we're in a quandary. We can't figure it out. We can't crawl inside your head to see who you really are. All we have to judge you on is what you've said and what you've done. So what we say and how we say it. My wife's a LPCC, and she always tells me that, you know, you can tell people anything. Anything. It's all in how you tell them. And I have found that to be so true. You don't have to lie. Usually we want the truth. It's all in how you tell us about the truth. So I believe Now, what we do is a reflection of who we are. And Steve Jobs said, be a yardstick of quality. Some people aren't used to an environment where excellence is expected. So as a leader, any true leader makes him or herself a measuring rod, a yardstick. That when you have integrity, when you show compassion, when you have courage, when you have a clarity of vision of where you're going, and you have a commitment to excellence, you then can say to the people that work with you, to the people that work for you, follow my example. If it was Sunday morning, I'd tell you what Paul said to when he was writing, and said, follow me as I follow Christ. That's the yardstick. This is how we're going to measure excellence. And we have to understand, not everybody is used to being in an environment where things are done with excellence. So, you have to ask a question you can ask yourself as you go throughout your day and as you continue along your leadership journey. Am I doing this in excellence? Or am I just throwing it together just to get it done? I used to work for the Bureau of Workers' Compensation, government agency, state agency. And I remember working on a project, and we were working on it for a group of employers. And one of my coworkers, he was the lead on this project. It was less, the output was less than excellent. And it was not going to reflect on the agency well. I knew it. He knew it. And so I challenged him on it. And his response was, well, it's good enough for government work. And I thought to myself, that's why we get a bum rap. It's because you say this is good enough and we know it's not done in excellence. As you go about your work today and in the future, think about, am I doing this in excellence, or am I just throwing this together just to get it done so I can say it's done? We have to make ourselves the yardstick of quality. And that's it. 5 characteristics that I believe money can't buy. But every great leader, every good leader has to possess. Okay? Questions? I have a few minutes left. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
How does accountability fall in there? I've heard a lot of it, but I didn't actually hear that word. Talk a little bit about that.
In order to be compassionate and to have integrity, doesn't mean that you don't hold people accountable for delivering, because you got to come through. And so for me, accountability falls under the umbrella of a commitment to excellence. In order for us to do this in an excellent fashion, you're going to have to hold people accountable. And it also comes under the umbrella of courage, because you're going to have to be bold enough to bring an underperforming employee into your office and sit them down and say, no, look, you're underperforming here. See, this is why these are some of the characteristics and traits that some in the leadership field say, oh, this is that touchy-feely stuff. No, because I'm showing compassion doesn't mean you let it slide. But you also have to hold people accountable as well. Otherwise, the whole thing falls apart. So for me, it takes courage to do it, but because I have a commitment to excellence and I have integrity, I have to do it.
So I just wondered, as you were talking about these, is there one of the characteristics that you struggle with on a day-to-day basis? So I can think of many examples in which some of these might come into conflict. So you are a person of integrity, someone has a problem, you're trying to be compassionate. gave the example of you've had 10 years of great record of achievement and so forth, and you do one stupid thing. So when these things come into conflict, is there one that in your mind is a leader that is more of a struggle than any of the others? So what do you do when you have a conflict between these kinds of characteristics?
Pray without ceasing.
Well, you've got a better connection.
Yes, these all five of them. They're constantly they're constantly a tension between them, and that's why I kind of tried to throw some questions in there for you to wrestle with and think about, because man, there's some situations that come up and you just say, integrity for me is probably the one that is the toughest, because man, life just throws so many situations at you, and you just say, okay, I could tell a little lie right here, and it would be so much easier to just gloss over it and try and move on. But I've also lived long enough now to have learned it always comes back to bite you. And compassion is challenging, particularly when the deadline is looming. And if you have people that work for you, the deadline is looming, but all of a sudden, somebody needs to call off. And you know they're not sick. But they're calling in you sick time. It's like, come on, dude, come on. You know, the deadline is Friday. It's Wednesday night. Everybody else is here. Now we have to work overtime and double time to make up for you not being here, all because it's sunny and 75, and I know you're at Bentry right now. I know that's where you are. So yeah, they can all be challenging. But that's really where integrity kicks in. And this is why money can't buy it, because it's in those moments when it's tested that we really find out who you really are. So when nobody else is watching, and nobody else we would never know, unless you told us, we would never know. You do the right thing in spite of the consequences. So integrity, boy, that's a tough one. That's why I put it first. And it's the only one that didn't start with C. Messed up my alliteration. Yes.
I just wanted to make a quick comment. I think that what happens is that sometimes, I'll give you a C word, that these compete with the reality of really what's going on. And I think that the cool thing is that you can't buy these, certainly you can't buy these, but I think that we all find ourselves in competition with these, because you've got the reality, you've got survival, you've got all these things always happening around you. So therefore, I think that it's okay if they compete with you a little bit, because it forces you to think, and then you have to have the courage to be able to admit it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, literally to admit the fact that you're competing with one of these, and how are you going to get out of this? Because, I know I work in workforce, I know people find jobs. There's a lot of not so great reality out there.
Mm-hmm.
And survival today is not easy for everybody. So sometimes, one of these things has to be put in the back, and you have to say to yourself, oh my God, how am I going to just make it? But if you are willing to come back to it, if you're always reminding yourself you have to come back to it, I think it still helps you be a better person. So that's sort of what I wanted to share, because certainly they can, that's my general view.
Okay.
I question just another seat.
Let me go here and then we'll get.
Yeah, one of the things that I struggle with is, when you were mentioning commitment to excellence, and there's only so many hours in a day, and I've done things where I had to look back and say, well, this was not my best effort, but this was my best effort under the circumstances. I have to pick and choose what I can really do excellent, because I just don't have time to do you had or have any experiences?
It's a reality of life. And all you can do is do your best. That's all. We can't ask any more of you than that. To give your all and give me the best you got. Give me that. And we have to be comfortable enough within ourselves to say, I did do my best. Now, under different circumstances, maybe my best would have been different, but given the hand that I was dealt, this is the best I could do with it. And that's what it's going to have to be. Mm-hmm. Sure.
I think one thing to think about that too is everything's a learning experience. And I think that as long as you know that maybe that wasn't the best way to handle something, and under different circumstances you might have done better, but to always keep that in the back of your mind, because those situations arrive all over and over and over again throughout our lives. And I think if we just learn and think back to those situations, and so when the next time comes around, is there something that I could do a little differently here that maybe I can keep true to who I am and make the best out of that situation? I think that's a great way to look at it.
Mm-hmm. Your best. That's all anybody can ask from you. They can ask for more, but when I've given you all I've got, that's all I've got. Dot?
I wonder in the first point of integrity, you seem to be suggesting, if I want to clarify, so I'm sure, that lying is never justified. But I think I could come up with a whole host of examples where in fact we would tell someone to lie. The context that we find ourselves in today with issues of policing, black males, Latino males, in fact, I would tell them to lie directly in certain circumstances. That is, somebody said, a survival mechanism. So I wonder how we teach the process of discernment so that the issue of integrity is not compromised. Because I would not see that as an issue of compromising someone. The context under which somebody may in fact employ a deceptive strategy for their own survival and well-being, in fact, might be something courageous and something to be praised. There's where some of the tension is. So I wonder, I know you have to move through these, so are you drawing a hard line that is never justified to be deceptive, which is lying? Is that your line?
No. It's not a hard line,
Yeah.
but it is a hard line. Because, I know I'm talking out both sides of your mouth, but again, we go back to where does the deception stop? And when does it shift from being justifiable to being unjustifiable? What's that magic point? And how do we discern it when we come across it?
Yeah, brother, but the problem here is there's not a bright line. That's why the process of discernment when we teach our young people is critical. They're going to make mistakes. I'm going to employ a deceptive strategy sometimes wrongly. But that's to say that sometimes I employ it right. And we're going to get it wrong. But that's why I wonder how we teach that, because for our young people especially, which is I think where you're driving, right? The lie has become too facile.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're worried, and I'm worried like you. I would say like the Clinton example with Monica Lewinsky, that's not what compromises his credibility. There was a whole history of things that he was saying that were already calling into question his integrity. This is icing on the cake that just slams the door shut. How do we teach that so we don't get into a situation where you do, because I think you're bang on here with the issue of integrity. Once it's compromised, you're out. How do we teach that process of discernment so that's where I struggle. I don't have an answer for you, but you're on.
I don't have the exact answer for that either. Because there are situations where employing deception is okay. you know, the whole spy game, where you're dealing with national security and we're at war. Employing deception is, yeah, it's okay. We need to in order to win. So it's a tough one, but it's one that I think it is a point where we have to engage it, and at the very least, we have to keep wrestling with it.
And pray.
Great.
Yes.
Yes, and pray.